What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Action Network podcast presented by FanDuel. I am your host, Chris Raybon. And first, let me start by explaining what is coming up this Monday, February 6th. Stuckey and I will deliver our final betting preview episode of the year with our Super Bowl edition of the Sunday Six Pack. But today, we got a very special episode. One of our Action Network's most talented, most underappreciated people, hardworking guy, hops out of Ubers because he doesn't want to go drink Gucci at night sometimes because he's got to go grind. Our OG's director of research, Evan Abrams. Every week our team throws questions to Evan. Every week this guy is using Action's Bet Labs. So this week we got to get him on here and figure we put him to the test with the help of my co-host, the Prime Minister of Degenerate Nation, Stuckey. Stuck, tell everybody how you're doing and what exactly we're going to be doing with Evan on this episode today.
Yeah, so what's going on, everybody? Super Bowl's still a week away, and our episode will be coming up later this week. We'll record for you guys for early next week with our bets and props and Probapalooza and all of that. But we still wanted to get an episode out for you guys this week, because there's just so much to talk about anytime there's Super Bowl, and a lot of times the same information just gets recycled and the same talking points. I can't even watch I can't even watch like SportsCenter, ESPN anymore. It's the same things being talked about over and over again. Now you have Brady retired. Like, we already did this. I don't need to get more Brady content. Although we're probably going to be mentioning Brady quite a bit today with Super Bowl trivia.
There's always the Pro Bowl. There's always the Pro Bowl.
Yeah. Lamar Huntley in the Pro Bowl will be exciting, but yeah, so there's always a lot to talk about. So we wanted, so last night,
Lamar Huntley,
Tyler Huntley. So
the Chiefs owner is balling his quarterback now.
Lamar Hunt, yeah, he's going to play quarterback in the Pro Bowl, which is true flag football now. But last night, Raybon and myself put together a bunch of questions for Evan. Some of just the most things that we were curious about, or things that we thought that you guys would be interested to hear as you put together. Some of them will help, MVP betting with potentially putting some bets together. So first we'll ask Evan our favorite questions from last night, and we'll see what he found. And then you guys know I'm a huge Jeopardy guy. Qualified once before, never made it on, humble brag. But also I just love trivia. So Evan's going to throw a little Super Bowl trivia game at us, a la Mad Dog. One of my favorite things about Mad Dog Radio, when he used to be on the radio, he used to do a great Super Bowl trivia during the week. So, then to finish the show, he'll ask you guys out there a Super Bowl trivia question. You'll have the chance to win some prizes. So it should be a fun show, little appetizer for our Super Bowl betting show. So, Evan, let's bring Evan on. In my past with Evan, Evan always stays out with me late, but Evans usually stays out with me. He reaches a breaking point where he can't put up with me anymore. But what's going on, Evan?
It was like 2 years ago. I think I got a tweet in the morning. It must be like 3 a.m. Stuckey being like, I ended up with this person last, and it tagged me, and I was like, great. Like, the last needed was exactly that. And so yeah, we're here. We're gonna answer some questions. We're gonna enjoy the show. But honestly, I'm just excited. Like, the Super Bowl is awesome because it's also the last game, and I'm ready for March Madness, and I'm ready to move on. So let's do it. Let's run into this. Let's enjoy the show. Let's do it. What do you got for us, Stuck?
Yeah, I'll start things off. This is a kind of where I think people should start when you're looking at the props. The first thing people think of is MVPs, and the MVP of the Super Bowl is always an interesting market because it's a different animal than the MVP of the league, right? MVP of the league, it's like quarterback award, sort of like the Heisman Trophy. But that's not necessarily been the case with the MVP of the Super Bowl. I believe, without looking, it's like 30-ish of the 57 have been quarterbacks. So that means almost half have been non-quarterbacks. So what's the breakdown there by position historically for MVPs?
Yeah, so 56 Super Bowls, 57 MVPs. You're like, huh, what? Yeah. 1978, Dallas had two defensive ends, one MVP. So 57 MVPs in total. 31 have been quarterbacks, 8 wide receivers, 7 running backs, and 11 have been every other position. And I think probably the interesting thing is a wide receiver won the MVP last year, obviously, with Cooper Kupp, 2019 Julian Edelman, but it's been absolutely ages since a running back's won. And I feel like we have this discussion every year, and it's actually really interesting. It took basically 30 carries for Terrell Davis in 98 and Emmitt Smith in 94 to win the award. So I couldn't even begin to tell you when we're going to see that again, if we are, but that kind of answers your first question there, Stuck.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to set Raybon. I was going to set you up actually, but can you see either of, because Cooper Kupp, we talked about how Kupp makes sense last year. I mean, he was the dominant receiver by far. Julian Edelman could get like 1 million targets. The Eagles have 2 really good receivers on the outside. The Chiefs, it's like, first of all, we don't know who's going to play receiver, but say everyone was healthy. It's not like they have a Tyreek Hill now. Could you even see reasonably any receiver winning it this year? Because or is it just like if a receiver has a great day, it's probably going to be the quarterback that wins it?
Well, I mean, Travis Kelce, if we're calling him a receiver, would obviously be, front and center. I mean, this guy is, he does nothing but score touchdowns in the postseason. Each of his last 5 playoff games, he scored a touchdown. I believe it's 7 of the last 8 and 8 of the last 10 as well. So this guy, all he does. So I think he's in a conversation. But I wanted to point out that.
And tight ends never won, right, Evan? Tight ends never won MVP.
Don't believe so.
Yeah, I don't think so. But I mean, this is kind of a
he's
new
basically
era
a receiver.
Tight ends are really now. I mean, you only had so many tight ends that are kind of like wide receivers. There was Gronk, there's Kelce, there's been maybe a couple others, but it just hasn't been many. But I was gonna say that, going back to the receivers in general, not only did Edelman win in 2019, and not only did Kupp win last year, but if Kupp doesn't win, who wins last year? T. Higgins. So no matter which team won last year, there was gonna be a wide receiver winning that. Now, the other thing I was going to say was you got to go back to 98 for a running back. But this Eagles, if there's any team to break that trend, if the Eagles win, I mean, we've seen it every week of the playoffs. It's, you got Jalen Hurts. He's usually going to run one in, but Sanders can get 2. Kenneth Gainwell is probably one of my favorite long shots for MVP, because it's like, we've seen this script already, right? It's like, if the Eagles are playing well and they're winning, there's a good chance that the backup running back gets in the game and balls out, or maybe even the third running back. So I think the Eagles, not saying it's going to happen, but if you're looking for long shots, I wouldn't say, okay, well, running backs haven't won since 98. I'm going to stay away, because this Eagles team, if any team was set up to break the trend, I can't remember one as well positioned to do that as this Eagles team.
Yeah, it's a good point. And Evan, moving on before we move on to our next question, which also has to do with Super Bowl MVP long shots. I have a trivia question for you, unless it's one of the trivia questions that are coming up later. But do you know what year or who or the team that had the one MVP from a losing team happened one time in Super Bowl history?
I'm not even gonna. So it's on. It was one of the questions, but you can.
Okay.
Answer.
Well, I'm going to hold it. I don't know. I'm not sure I remember the name, so I'll see if I can pull it later. But so let me move on before I spoil every trivia question later.
No, you just got to answer that now. And we can't leave the listener hanging like that.
I don't know if it's meant for me or for you.
It doesn't matter. Just answer it now, and we have a whole bunch of trivia. There's more where that came from.
I'm going to say it was a linebacker for the Cowboys in Super Bowl 5, and I'm going to say it was Chuck Howley.
Yeah, you got it. He got it. He was going to see Stuck. I feel like was setting us up for that. I feel like
I kind of knew it, but I also wanted to save it now because it was going to be, I wanted to impress during the trivia portion, but whatever. So that he would have been, I don't know if you have odds. I doubt you have odds for Super Bowl MVPs back then, but tell us about the history of Super Bowl MVP long shots. What I'm sure we have data probably over the last 20, 25 years.
Yeah, something like that. But I think the interesting part about the long shot is what do we consider a long shot when it comes to this type of market, right? Like Kupp was 600 last year, 650. That's pretty much a long shot, probably when you're looking at plus 100s for most quarterbacks, plus 200 sometimes. So if we look at last year's Kupp at 6-1, 12 of the last 16 MVPs have been 6-1 or better. Only 3 of the last MVPs have been higher than 10-1. So when you look at that, it's just, both Edelman and Von Miller were both 25-1. And then obviously you had Malcolm Smith. So Malcolm Smith, if you found him at an individual book back then, could have been like 300 to 1. And then the only thing I'll leave you with is this. Right now, both Hurts plus 110, Mahomes plus 125 are under plus 200 to an MVP in the Super Bowl. It's just the second time in the last 20 years the top 2 MVP favorites are below plus 200. So that's one interesting thing, that those odds for those 2 top favorites are pretty low, but they are, as it is an interesting conversation, higher than the money line for their teams. So
yeah, I think a lot of those, the reason you have it, like although the Bucks, that do you have Dexter Jackson? Do you have his odds when he won it with the Bucks?
let's see.
So Dexter Jackson, he won it back in early 2000s, and he was the Buccaneers safety, and he wasn't a star. And the craziest thing about that, because I always talk about when I look at the MVPs, it's like, well, if you think it's going to be a low scoring game, then you think that there's you want to take just a flyer just for fun on someone that could have a pick six and then a fumble return. The craziest thing about that one is the Bucks won 48-21, and Dexter Jackson was the MVP. I don't know if we have his odds. I think it was maybe that was the Super Bowl 20 years ago, 2003. But yeah, sometimes it's just, hey, especially if it's lower scoring, you're the right guy in the right place. You have a pick six, and especially if it's a critical point in the game, and then you happen to fall on a fumble, and then no one else went bananas statistically, and you get the random Super Bowl MVPs, which we haven't had in a while. And although it's probably more difficult when you have star power at the quarterback position, if it's like, hey, there's no one to go to, could be just the quarterbacks by default. But anything you want to add before I bring Raybon's question?
No, Jeff, let's go.
All right, so you know me, I loved looking at the passing yardage props. So I was just wondering if anything kind of jumped out in terms of, our quarterbacks going over, are they going under in the Super Bowl? How efficient are these lines?
Yeah, so I found passing yardage props going back to Super Bowl 47, which gave us a 20 total quarterbacks and 10 years. 11 of the 20 quarterbacks went under. 3 times they both went over, 4 times they both went under. So if you're looking for like a trend to take both of them in one way, it's a little bit both ways. And there's a school of thought out there that if you think one quarterback will take the loss, you should bet his passing yardage over, assuming he'll fall behind early and they'll abandon the run. But in the last 10 Super Bowls, the losing quarterback has gone over the number just 4 times. Brady versus Philly, Brady versus Seattle, Cam versus the Broncos, Kaepernick versus the Ravens. So that's just an interesting way of looking at it.
But yeah, no, that's interesting because I was looking at the passing yardage props that are posted. That's, we can't get props on everything right now as we record this because we still don't know what's going on with these Chiefs receivers, but we do have passing yardage props, and Jalen Hurts' line is 246.5, and he's only cleared that number 5 times this year. So I thought that was interesting. And then Mahomes, I think, that was a sharp call by you last week, Stuck, going over with him. And, he's up to 292.5 at some spots, but this Eagles defense is really good. So, I mean, at least my early lean is both quarterbacks under, just on my raw projections. I have Mahomes around 280 and Hurts around 235. Not to get too much into, we'll have the proper Palooza episode, but just throwing that out there because I think that's some good information, Evan.
Yeah, we'll talk about that too. With you could potentially, though, I bet there'll be a prop for combined. So if you like them both under and you want to remove some game script variants, you could go that route as well. But we'll talk about it on the episode. But go ahead.
All right, yeah. So we'll stay on passing yardage here. Patrick Mahomes led the NFL in passing this season by over 500 yards. Evan, how has the regular season passing leader performed in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, this was actually a really fun question overall, just because you're really looking recent, right? Mostly when you talk about these like big passing quarterbacks. So this will be the 7th Super Bowl to feature the league leader in regular season passing yards. Each of the previous 6 lost the game.
Wow.
The first was Dan Marino in 84. The other 5, like I kind of just alluded to, have all come after the year 2000. Can you name them? You got them?
Ooh, is this just Stucky or I just kind of blurred out names?
Yeah, off the cuff.
I would say it's Matt. Did Manning lose one?
Yeah, but I doubt he threw. I doubt he led the league in. Oh, Peyton Manning.
Yeah. Peyton. Oh,
I
hey,
was
no,
thinking
Eli had a year. No, but he never lost.
he never
But yeah,
lost. I'm gonna say
I would say Peyton, Brady.
Kurt Warner,
Ooh, that's a good one.
Drew Brees.
So you got basically all of them but one. Brady did it twice. Peyton Manning in 13. Warner in 01.
Breeze didn't lose, right? Breeze didn't lose in the Super Bowl.
No, not Breeze.
He won. So there's one. We're missing one.
Missing one. Early 2000s. The hint is he really did like throwing pick sixes.
Ooh. That's
So
probably a better
Delhomme.
I'm
gonna give it to you. It's Gannon.
Oh, we just talked about that Super Bowl too.
Yeah.
Oh man, that went right over my head.
Yep.
FYI, guys, there have been 14 total pick sixes in Super Bowl history. The quarterback throwing a pick six are 1-11 straight up, with the only victory coming from Brady versus the Falcons, obviously. The Raiders' Rich Gannon.
Talk about that game.
The Raiders' Rich Gannon wasn't so lucky. He set the record for interceptions in a Super Bowl with 5 against Tampa in 2003, including 3 pick sixes.
That's really nuts. I mean, the one thing I would say about this Super Bowl, probably a lower risk of pick sixes here. I mean, Mahomes throws some bad interceptions, but they're usually like in the red zone or like they're usually just at times where it's not really a pick six type of situation. And Hurts rarely turns the ball over. So
Mahomes isn't gonna he's not gonna like underthrow or miss time and out. Mm-hmm. It's usually just like scrambling and then over the middle of the field trying to make a play. So yeah, I would agree with you there. There's less risk for that. And speaking of, we were just talking about passing yardage. I think, by the way, there's been one quarterback who's thrown for over 400 yards, and outlier performances in the Super Bowl can really go a long way in determining the winner. And that's the stuff that fans really remember. So what are some of the big thresholds or benchmark stats that you found in terms of individual performances in Super Bowl history?
Yeah, recording this same day as Brady retires, we're going to be bringing up Brady a lot. But no surprise, Brady comes up every time here. Brady occupies the top 2 spots for passing yards in the Super Bowl with 505 and 466. He also sits in the top 2 spots for completions, 37 versus Seattle in 15, 43 versus Atlanta in 17. He also set the Super Bowl record for pass attempts in Atlanta with 62. But this is assumed, but also good to know. Generally, a lot of pass attempts in the Super Bowl also means they're going to lose. They're trailing, obviously, in the game. So 49 or more teams are 2-9 straight up. And here's actually a fun one. So 3 quarterbacks have completed 80% or more of their passes in a Super Bowl, but only 1 since Ronald Reagan left the White House. Thank you for that note, Matt Mitchell.
Who was it?
I was going to say, you could guess if you want.
I'll let Stucky guess because I'm looking. I know the answer. I know the answer.
They won the game?
Yeah.
Maybe it was. And it wasn't Brady.
It's Breeze.
Oh, it's Breeze. It's Breeze.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. 2010, 1 MVP, 32 of 39, 288 against the Colts. But also, to no surprise, throwing a lot of touchdowns is good. Only 6 quarterbacks have thrown 4 or more touchdowns in the Super Bowl. They're 6-0 straight up. And I'll end here of safeties. People love betting safeties. But we also had safeties in back-to-back Super Bowls in 13-14. We haven't had one since. Before that, we actually hadn't had one since 91. So there are a few benchmark stats for you, Stuck.
I was and 13 and 14, and then we also had one in 11, right? Because the Giants got a safety in that 2011 Super Bowl, I believe, against Brady. Like that was the first points, right?
Maybe.
I believe it was.
I didn't have it on my list, so
yeah, that's why we had like a weird score at the end. So I believe there was a safety on Brady in that. So yeah, it was like three in the 4 years in there. That's pretty interesting. But talking about Mahomes here, I mean. I don't know how bad the ankle truly is. He didn't look too bad. I know he kind of hobbled a little bit at one point when he put all his weight on it, but probably better than I think a lot of people thought. But on paper, still a pretty good rushing matchup. Obviously, you have Jalen Hurts, who's elite running, and Mahomes can and is known to increase his running in the postseason, maybe the 2 weeks off. He does that. But I was just kind of curious, this new the scrambling quarterback's kind of a new thing for the most part. So what are the best rushing performances by a QB in the Super Bowl?
I'll say this off the top, though. When you asked me this question, I thought it was really good and interesting and something I hadn't thought of. Like there's a lot of ways to attack this question, right? Because if you just look at most rushing yards in a Super Bowl, you don't exactly capitalize on every rushing quarterback that's made a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. We'll start there. So most quarterback rushing yards in a Super Bowl, Steve McNair had 64. He lost straight up 2000.
Well, I thought you were going to say Steve Young first. That was my first thing. I thought of.
I forgot.
He's the original scrambler. Yeah,
and he doesn't even come for a second. So Kaepernick at 62 in 13, he lost. Montana in 85 had 59. So again, maybe you don't think about that, but he won obviously. 95 again. There's Steve Young. He won.
So many Niners.
Yeah, and there you go, 3 Niners. And then last is Cam Newton. He had 45 and lost in that Super Bowl. But again, like a really interesting.
But what did Mahomes have? What did Mahomes have pre 30 yards of kneels? That's the question.
That's a good question.
That was the first one, right? The one he won against San Francisco.
Yeah. How many yards did he have before all the kneels? He had like 20 yards of kneels or something, right? Correct. He might have been over 50. He might have been close to 50 yards. I don't know.
I think he'd be in the 30s and 40s would be my guess without looking at it.
I think the total was like 31 and a half.
I'll put the total. So he kneeled for 7, 3, and 5 on the last 3 plays. So that was 15. And he finished with, let's see,
30 of low 30s.
He finished with 29. So he would have had 44.
The total was 31. Yeah.
He would have had 44.
Finished right below Cam, who had 45.
Okay.
But yeah, the thing that I thought was interesting as well, quarterbacks have run for 30 plus yards in 13 Super Bowls. They're 3-10 straight up. Again, Mahomes
that's interesting.
Fell out of that, but
that's actually kind of interesting. I guess, maybe that's due because, again, they're just guys weren't scrambling as much. So maybe that's just an indicator of the defense covering well and them having to scramble out of the pocket. I'd actually be curious. Can probably look that up too. I'm just like, how many of those were scrambles? Because that's what I would guess it would be just without looking at the numbers.
Of those 13 quarterbacks, I'd probably look at rush attempts too. Like, was it one rush? Was it like,
yeah. All right. And another thing I think is really interesting about this game, we don't see a lot of these necessarily, but we have a rookie starting running back for KC, Pacheco, playing well too. How often have we seen a rookie running back in the Super Bowl, and anything notable in terms of their performances?
Yeah, there's a few ways to attack this. So I looked at it like this. The thing that stands out from the top is Jamal Lewis. Jamal Lewis's performance in 2001 is kind of the modern performance by a rookie running back. And it's the rookie record for carries as well, 27. But since the year 2000, 5 teams have had a rookie running back carry the ball 10 plus times in a Super Bowl. Those teams are 5-0 straight up and 5-0 against the spread. It's a little, it's noisy. It's noisy.
Right. Obviously,
but it's Sony Michel in 19, Bernard Pierce in 13 with the Ravens, 2011, James Starks, Green Bay, 2007, Joseph Adai, Colts, and our boy Jamal Lewis, 2001 Ravens.
Wow. And funny enough, I mean, where do you guys put I feel like Pacheco's probably already like number 2 or 3 on that list of running backs. Like,
seriously,
after Jamal Lewis, you could make an argument for anybody, really. I mean, Pierce is probably at the bottom, but
yeah, there's a lot of noise in that though, in that like you'll hear some analysts sometimes be like, well, the teams in the playoffs that run the ball this many times are 80%. So like a lot of times, game script, like the Ravens were winning. They they rolled in that game. They got to run it the entire time. And so there's a lot of game script noise in that, but that's very interesting nonetheless. My next 2 questions cover 2 of my favorite angles to talk about. First, we have a quarterback making their Super Bowl debut in Jalen Hurts. You could argue he's also making his playoff debut, well, against a real playoff team for the first time. He played the Giants and then a team without a quarterback. And then he's playing a quarterback with Super Bowl experience. Historically, Does this give Mahomes the edge?
So quarterbacks with Super Bowl experience facing one with no Super Bowl experience are 19 and 15 straight up. So just a small edge, and actually 16 and 18 against the spread all time. This will be the 21st time in Super Bowl history where one quarterback has a 2+ Super Bowl experience gap. And the experienced quarterback is 12 and 8 in those games. So again, just a small edge. But if you back out Tom Brady from the equation, which was asked to me by Matt Mitchell, and I was like, you know what? I guess that's kind of interesting. The more experienced quarterback is still 7 and 5. So forget Brady and all those, later Super Bowls. You still have a 7 and 5 record. And I'll add one more layer. Patrick Mahomes is the 13th quarterback to appear in a third Super Bowl. Of the previous 12 quarterbacks playing in their third Super Bowl, 6 won, 6 lost. So take it for what you will. Experience kind of doesn't mean too much.
I think the last time we had a quarterback making his third or more start against the quarterback making their debut was when the Eagles won it, ironically enough, right?
Believe so. Believe that is right.
2017, Foles versus Brady.
I have a good trivia coming up as well when it comes to like experience and non-experience. So we can hit that.
Okay. All right. And another angle that people have discussed is the revenge game. This time we've got Andy Reid facing his former team, the Eagles, has the coach revenge game angle. When has it come up? Has it been profitable? What do you got there?
I'll just say this off the top. This is also the Nick Sirianni Bowl. I mean, he was with the Chiefs, so there's a little bit of revenge and angst coming from both sides. But to answer your question, the head coach has happened 4 times prior to this year. So 2014, Pete Carroll and the Patriots. Pete Carroll Seahawks facing the Patriots. New England won. 2002, John Gruden, Tampa Bay Raiders. Tampa Bay won. 1998, Dan Reeves, Falcons, Broncos won. And 1968, the good old Weeb Eubank, Jets, Colts, biggest upset we've ever seen in Super Bowl history. So those are your 4 examples. Again, I don't think it's something, it's 2 and 2. You're not handicapping based. It's just interesting information. And you have a lot of angles with this game.
Good old Weeb.
Good old Weeb.
All right, we're about to jump into trivia, but let me get one more question in. I thought it was interesting that this is a matchup. You got Kansas City, got that 1 seed, and you got Philly, also a 1 seed. What is the history of 1 versus 1 seed matchups in the playoffs? How often in the Super Bowl? How often has it happened? And what have the results been?
So this is the 14th time in Super Bowl history you've had a 1 versus 1. Now remember, seeding didn't go all the way back. Seeding only started like a few years into the Super Bowl. But just to name the last few, Eagles and Patriots in 18 was 1 seeds.
Yeah.
Carolina Broncos, New England Seattle, Seattle Denver, and New Orleans Indy were in 2010. Those are really the last 5. And favorites are just 7 and 6. ATS and straight up in the game. So again, nothing too much to really glean from the 1 and 1. Honestly, where you get the angle in Super Bowl history is when it's not 1 versus 1. You tend to want to look at the team who's the higher seed, like not the 1, but the 2, 3, 4 in that scenario. So 1 versus 1, kind of a non-story.
So you're saying like when a 1 is playing a lower seed, the lower seed usually covers more, or?
Yeah. Like
Okay.
the 3 versus the 1, the 4 versus the 1,
Gotcha.
the 4 versus the 2 tends to go towards the 4.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, that was great stuff, Evan. So let's jump right into some trivia. I know you've been itching to go with that. What do you got?
So the first trivia question we'll go with here, this is poised to be the 15th straight Super Bowl with the favorite laying fewer than 7 points. That's extending the longest streak in Super Bowl history. Who was the last big favorite, guys?
Patriots.
What do we
or
consider?
Giants?
Yeah, what are we considering big favorite?
Fewer than 7 points.
Like more than
The last favorite fewer than 7 points last year.
Bigger. So like the last favorite bigger than. So we have 15 straight years. Where the
Giants, Patriots.
Giants, Patriots.
All right.
12. What was the spread? 12 and a half.
12 and a half.
Yeah, nobody gave that. That was the first one. That nobody gave him a chance in that one.
All right, let's keep rolling here. So 29 Super Bowls have had a spread of 6 or less. The straight up winner has covered 28 of them. Name the non-cover.
Last year?
There you go. I want to make you sure you're sharp. I want to make
Okay.
sure, we're rolling along. You're thinking. That's good.
That was the only one? That's the only one ever?
Ah, wow. That's.
Oh, yeah.
that's
I remember
amazing.
now all the talk about that. Like the winner, all you have to do is pick the straight up winner, and then it didn't happen.
I mean,
28.
the Bengals, because the Bengals were just, that was kind of what? That was like right when they really started covering like every game. It was like probably that. Like,
well, they covered every game 13. In the playoffs, I think.
Yeah, it was like, I think it started with that upset of the Chiefs, and they just kept rolling right into this season, right up until, the conference championship.
Yep.
21 Super Bowls have had a spread of 4 or less. The straight up winner covered all 21. 11 favorites straight up, 10 dogs straight up.
All right. Next question.
All right. So there have only been 3 missed extra points since 1990 in the wild card era. One kicker has 2 of them. Name that kicker.
I know this.
Bonio?
Maybe.
No.
I think that it happened.
Can you give us hint? It's a time frame.
I think it happened. No, I think I know the answer, but do you want me to give you a hint, or do you want me to just say it? I think it happened in the same quarter.
It's very recent.
Yeah, I think Gostkowski missed 2 in the first quarter against the Broncos.
Nailed it. The extra points are 255 of 267. The last miss was Gostkowski and Elliott in 18. Gostkowski has 2 of the 3 misses in the wild card era.
I don't remember that Elliott miss.
Yeah, that Philly Eagle. Yeah, that Philly.
Was that Elliott miss early? I don't remember that one.
Think so. Because I think Gostkowski came after, but Patriots and Eagles fans will know better than us.
Yeah, did they go for the Philly special before or after the extra point was missed? I don't know.
That's a good question.
All right. I do remember Gostkowski's meltdown now because it was. I think both in the same quarter.
No, because I think it was 2 different games. Gostkowski and Elliott might have been in the same quarter itself, but Gostkowski missed it in another Super Bowl.
I thought Gostkowski missed 2 in the same. Maybe in the same playoff game once. I'm thinking of.
Maybe
because you said Broncos, that wouldn't have been a Super Bowl because he was.
Yeah. I think he missed 2 in a first quarter against the Broncos, so I think I accidentally got that right. So anyway.
All right. Moving on. What you got for us next?
All right, so there have been 5 offensive plays in Super Bowl history of 80-plus yards. The longest was an 85-yard pass. It came in the last 20 years, and it was a team who lost to the Patriots. Can you name the quarterback and wide receiver?
Is it Matt Ryan?
It's not.
I'm going to go...
Russ? No.
I was going to go Jake Delhomme to Muhsin Muhammad.
Ding, 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 ding.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Is it Muhammad?
Was 2004 Delhomme Muhammad 85 yards.
I loved Muhsin Muhammad, one of my favorite receivers of all time. All right, before we get out of here, we do have, as we mentioned earlier, trivia for the listeners. So to enter this trivia contest, tweet us and tag our account at Action Podcast with your answer. And I promise you will be tickled with the prize, which is TBD. Since 1990. The wild card era, a backup quarterback has attempted a pass in 6 Super Bowls. Only 1 pass attempt was made in non-garbage time, with the game still within 10 points. It was an incompletion. The backup, so this is what you need to answer and tag Action Podcast. The backup quarterback's name, the starting quarterback he replaced, and the intended receiver of that pass attempt in the only pass attempt by a backup quarterback that was made in non-garbage time with the game still within 10 points. That was an incompletion. Again, tag us. There'll be a prize, and I'll leave this for one. I'll leave this for Evan. I'll get you involved, and Raybon. One final trivia question: name one of the only, I think there's 4 or 5 non-quarterbacks to throw a touchdown pass in Super Bowl history.
Joe Mixon.
There you go.
Evan, I remember that very well because that was the path to the T. Higgins MVP that just got taken from us.
Yeah, that was
P. Ryan couldn't convert.
So, who threw the Philly special?
Trey Burton. Right?
Trey Burton.
Yep.
And then you have Randall L. and there was one or two
Was there a
others way
Patriot?
back
Was
in
there
the
a
day.
Patriot in there?
I don't know. There could have been.
No, 'cause I feel like Amendola, Edelman, but I think that might have been. I'm thinking might have been thinking of the conference championship that they took.
Yeah, I think Brady's thrown every one of them.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So there it is again. Raven will take us out of here, but just Ad Action Podcasts since 1990. There's been backup quarterbacks attempted 6 passes. Excuse me, a backup quarterback's attempted a pass in 6 Super Bowls. You just need to name the one. It's only happened once that has done it non-garbage time. Game was within 10 points. It was an incompletion. Just tell us who the backup quarterback is, who the starting quarterback is that he replaced, and the intended receiver on that incomplete pass. And you will be tickled by the prize. Thanks for listening to all of our ramblings. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Raybon, you want to take us out of here?
All right, yeah, that was fun. Thank you very much for joining us, Evan. You had some great, very interesting information. So hopefully people enjoyed that, even if they didn't find every single nugget completely actionable. It's hard to do that with a sample size of 56, but I think it was some great info. We will be back, Stuckey and I will, with our traditional betting preview 6-pack. That episode will be out Monday. So going to be earlier in the week, much earlier in the week than usual for that episode, because we know you guys want to start laying your bets down. And you can find Stuckey on Twitter at Stuckey2. You can find Evan on Twitter at Evan H. Abrams. And you can find me on Twitter at Chris Raybon. You can also find us at those same handles on the free award-winning Action Network app, where you can track all of your bets or follow our bets. And app is looking really good. I mean, we got the player prop tracking now. It gives you, what your odds are live to hit player props. So really cool updates in the app. Be sure to download that, and we'll be back with our betting preview Monday, and we'll have a few more episodes, have our Proper Palooza episode as well. So stay tuned for that. Until next time, let's get this money.